So hello everyone and welcome to this very belated video, but wasn't actually my fault. So we have to of course still talk about how good is Shizuka Tokime, and one thing that I wanted to mention right away is there might have been some people who have been wondering like why did this video take so long. I did mention it in the news section that the information in here did take a while to come, did take a while to be added to the wiki, and there's a very specific reason for this that might also be important for the future. Because there has apparently been some back-end change to the game that makes it harder to data mine the actual numbers for this, especially if you don't actually own the girl. So I think what the data miners need to do now is I think you need to actually have the girl themselves and then do something special. I'm not quite sure. And I think I also have heard a rumor that, I'm not quite sure if it was even a rumor, if it's actually true, that one of the main data miners doesn't data mine anymore. I'm not quite 100% certain on that. However, the important part is that now in the future it might also take a really long time for all this information to get added to the wiki. I'm sorry guys. One thing that I want to mention though is if there's maybe some people watching who maybe are data miners or who have these girls, like roll for them right away, maybe some whales. The thing is, I don't actually care too much about the exact numbers. Like for example, knowing that this forest attribute damage cut is exactly 15%, I don't really care too much. If it's 10%, if it's 20%, whatever, I would like to just have a list of all of these effects, even if the numbers are just question mark percent. Like even if this was just question mark percent, I would be fine with that. Problem is, I literally couldn't find a list of her spirit enhancement until like yesterday, which is just absurd that it took this long, because anyone who has this girl could just write down this information. You just wouldn't have the actual percentage numbers. Anyway, now that that is out of the way, let's actually talk about how good Miss Armpits is, how good Miss Shizuka is. So, of course, she is the leader of her own faction, so we can tell that she's probably supposed to be pretty powerful. She is a balanced type character with 2A, 2Bs, which is a fine disc set for a sort of hybrid character, for more a supporty character that we'll see that she kind of is. Her personal still isn't on the wiki, but it's fine. I've had this screenshot since the day that she was released. Just no one actually added that information to the wiki, and if you guys are wondering why I'm not doing that, I don't know how to make these Japanese characters like on the wiki. Like it needs someone who actually knows the formatting used in the wiki. Whatever. The point is, I can sort of guess what these effects are, because this is attack up 5 and status ailment resistance 3. Do we know something that's similar to this? It's basically the flower memo for some terrible character, and we see that it has attack up 4 and status ailment resistance 3. So we can guess that with this attack up 5, it's probably 25% attack up and probably 30% status ailment resistance. Like I said, the Roman numerals aren't always the same between everything, so even though they're both status ailment resistance 3, they might have still different percentages because the game just does this shit. But yeah, so it's probably 25% attack up, 30% status ailment resistance, which is pretty fucking awesome. It's actually one of the personals that is actually really good and you should definitely use on this character. Although with that mentioned, if you had another 4-star Memoria that also gave at least 20% attack up, that one is probably better if it's max limit break at level 50. Why? Because if a 4-star Memoria is at level 50, it probably gives like somewhere between 1,800 to 2,000 attack, 2,200 attack even. And this Memoria only gives 1055 attack at max limit break, which isn't a whole lot. So if you have another really strong 4-star Memoria, that one's probably better. But even so, if you're on a rather fresh account, or if you just don't have any leftover really good 4-star Memoria for attack, this one is a great choice, especially because it gives status ailment resistance. Awesome. Now to the rest of her character, what do we see when we look at her stats? We of course see that she has amazing stats. She has great HP, she has really high defense, but even though she has really high defensive stats, she still has a great ton of attack on her, which is absolutely amazing that she still has this much attack even though she's focused this much on her defensive stats. So that's once again something that maybe going forward we'll see with other faction leaders as well, that they will have amazing stats. And yeah, she is the first new big faction leader that is added to the game. The only ones, like there's still 3 missing. We still haven't seen Yuna, who I still believe is going to be a forest type. We haven't seen Himena, who who knows who the fuck is gonna happen with her? She might be anything at this point. Like, she literally could be a charged void gorilla at this point, and we just wouldn't know, because Himena's basically the new Alina, and that she's completely crazy and fucked in the head and does whatever the fuck she wants. Anyway, point is, however, we're still missing her as well, and we're also missing Rabi. We still have no idea about Rabi as well, but I think she's also going to be forest type. And we can kind of assume that if they're going to follow this sort of schema that we have right here, they're probably also going to be really strong characters, even though they might be unlimited. And maybe that's something that they want to do, is make unlimited characters, because this is an unlimited character that is really strong. Something more that we're going to see, especially with her spirit enhancement, is that she also has some really awesome spirit enhancement stuff. But first, let's talk about her connect. It's not that great. It's actually the worst part about her connect. It's actually completely boring and not it's standard and whatever. So this is like a connect that we'd see in like a natural 3-star character, and even those have sometimes better connects. So yeah, the connect is actually pretty bad. More importantly though, she has a pretty alright Magia. So because she has 2 Excel discs, she can actually get to Magia quite alright, especially if you play in a Magia team, which you can totally do. With her, she is one of those characters that you can play in both a Blast team or an Excel team, so that's really nice. And what does it do? It gives our entire team attack up, her entire team defense up, and removes buffs from all enemies. That is an absurdly amazing support Magia to have, in that it is both offensive and defensive. The only downside is that the only offensive buffs that it gives is attack up, which a lot of other really good support Magia do as well. So if this wanted to be something more unique, maybe it would have given a damage up instead, like Awen Karin does. But even so, it's still a really good support Magia to have. The defense up as well. The defense up is so strong. If you use just 2 of these Magia, you're overcapping on defense up, which is absolutely absurd. And the remove buffs is a really nice bonus, especially against enemies that have buffs. But even if you use this Magia and it doesn't remove any buffs, just those 2 attack up and defense up buffs are still doing really well, especially on like really hard challenge quests, for example, where both the attack up and the defense up is actually really important to both stay alive and to kill the enemy in a reasonable amount of time. So this is really awesome. The double is just more of everything, as you would expect. We don't need to talk about that. More importantly though, I need to mention something about her character. So she's actually supposed to be super duper adorable and cute and pure-hearted, like the pure-hearted maiden that likes to sacrifice herself for the greater good, kind of like Madoka in that sense. But at the same time, and the reason I bring this up is because some people have talked about this, that she's kind of like Ui and Iroha, and that she's like the super duper pure-hearted girl who likes the power of friendship and everything. But the thing is, I actually like Shizuka, and I don't like the other 2, and the main reason is that Shizuka actually does stuff. Yes, she actually is involved in the conflict, makes tough choices, and actually does stuff, like ordering a fucking sniper hit on her enemies when they're distracted. Like, yeah, she actually does stuff, and she actually does make tough decisions as well, which is why I actually like her. I wanted to bring it up just quickly. Anyway, now about the actual stuff. That we wanted to talk about, of course, the spirit enhancement. Yeah, she has these 4 notes. You get some disc bonuses. Yeah, everyone gets these 4 notes and get disc bonuses, whatever. More importantly, what is the actual stuff that makes her important? Well, she gets some damage cut, which is nice. She gets forest attribute damage cut, which is just another damage cut, just that it only works against forest damage. And remember, she's a fire type, so she's already taking less damage from forest type. And now she has an additional damage cut on top of that against forest type, which makes forest basically deal close to 0 damage against her, which is great. But you don't really need help to survive against the element you're strong against anyway. So it kind of feels overkill, but yeah, it exists, I guess. Like, she has a total of 25% damage cut against forest. Great. Interestingly enough, she also has MP up when damaged. I think regularly you get like 3.5 MP when you get damaged, times the MP bonus from your type with balance. I think it's like 80% or something, or 90%. And then on top of that, you get plus 6 MP. Overall, she just gets somewhere around maybe 9 or 8 MP when she gets damaged, maybe 10 MP, not quite 10 MP, but like, let's say around 9 MP when she gets damaged in total with this bonus, which is actually also really awesome. It won't do much in like 1 or 2 turns, but across an entire battle, especially if you go in for really long turns, you will really start to notice that you're getting a lot more Magia out than you otherwise would be able to do. So for longer periods of time, this can be a really awesome bonus. And even in a short period of time, let's say on turn 1, you get to like 80 MP, and you think to yourself, oh man, 80 MP, I'm not gonna get Magia this turn. And then you get attacked like 2 or 3 times, and suddenly you have Magia. That's really awesome. But this is not, none of this is what you all came here for, right? What you all came here for is the one thing that makes her completely unique, the one thing that everyone's been talking about Shizuka. Like, so far Shizuka is pretty alright, pretty good, but not like a top tier unit. So far she's not a top tier unit, she's just a good unit, a really good unit. But she actually is a top tier unit because she has this right here, Bloom Aura, which is absolutely absurd actually. When you start a battle and you have Shizuka on your team, even if she's level 1 4-star, as long as she has this SE node unlocked, when you start the battle, every single character on your team will get an attacker buff for 5 turns and a defense buff for 5 turns, both at 15%. Just passively, just when you start the match. That's actually kind of amazing. That is absolutely kind of broken, actually. This works in mirrors too. Yeah, this also works in mirrors. So if you just hover along in mirrors, all of your guys will have 50% attack up, 50% defense up. That's amazing. So the reason why I brought this up as well with the level 1 4-star character is theoretically what you could do is if you only hover on one slot, let's say you got unlucky, you only hover on one slot. It's totally fine. You can just bring her along, keep her at level 1. You can keep her at level 1 4-star. Get this Spirit Enhancement node, put her in the battle, have her die on turn 1. You know what you can do? You can give her a special Memoria as well. This one right here, Never Ending Practice. You only need one slot to be able to use this, and if you use this in a PvE quest, it's going to be active on turn 1, of course, like all active Memoria are. And this one gives Provoke, so on turn 1 you can just use this one, get her killed. And it might seem weird to just take a character with you into battle to get killed immediately, but even if she dies on turn 1 as a level 1 character, she still buffs your entire team for 5 turns. So if you wanted, you could like have EX challenge quests where you take her along with you as level 1 and then have her die immediately, but your entire team is buffed. Awesome. So you can kind of play her like a Kura in that sense. That's amazing. By the way, I came up with this idea of playing her exactly like this when she was announced. Probably other people have come up with this idea as well. But I haven't seen how many people actually do this. But that said, this is something that you would only really do if she's 1 slot and if you have no other use for her. But even though, if you want to actually use her, like I said, her Magia is really awesome for support, so you can also just play her as a regular support, even though she's 1 slot. That's totally fine. Just something to keep in mind, that this is something that you could potentially do. And her active just gives herself more attack up and more defense up for 1 turn, which is really good as well. And I keep saying this is really good, it's really awesome, because that's just the thing. She has a lot of things about her that make her quite awesome. Apart from her connect, she is really awesome. And maybe her element, because fire is, you know, it would be better if she was light type, but yeah, it's okay. So she has quite a lot of really good things about her, but that's the thing is, that's not even the only part of this spirit enhancement, of this Fate Weave, because of course her Fate Weave also has Memoria in it. So let's go over these rather quickly. We see this one, Every Day Overflowing with Pride. Gay! And what it does is it gives a lot of attack up and a lot of defense up. Awesome! Oh my god, look at that. This reminds us of something. This reminds us of the Iroha Flower Memo. The Iroha Flower Memo is an active that for 3 turns also gives you a ton of attack up and a ton of defense up for 3 turns. This thing is passive. This is basically Iroha's Flower Memoria as a passive, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing. But we're going to keep going on with the spirit of more attack up, more defense up, more maybe some stats in resistance. We're formally deciding. Also, this is the 4-star active, gives attack up, gives stats in resistance up. Awesome for 3 turns. Over 3 turns you get this. Nice. And the 3-star Memoria for you who always perseveres. We get blast damage up. That's weird, that's not an attack up. And we get more stats and resistance up, yay! So we can kind of see what Shizuka is all about. She's all about the really basic stats and pushing those basic stats up as high as possible, attack and defense, and throw some stats and resistance in there for good measure. And doing all of that also gives her a really nice theme, and she also plays as a team player, buffing her entire team. Awesome! One thing to note, of course, is not just Shizuka herself is unlimited, all of these memoria, they're also unlimited, so they will appear in the gacha. And one thing that I might want to have people look out for is especially this memoria, because even if this is not MLB, even if you just have one copy of this, it already gives 20% attack up and 30% defense up. So just put that on your characters and you're gonna be looking way better than before anyway. So yeah, to put everything together, she's amazing. She's actually pretty great. Just keep in mind that she's not going to be the character that like blast combos your enemies to death. She's not the character that kills enemies with Magia chains. She's the character who buffs your entire team really hard, who stays alive really long because she's actually rather tanky, and make sure that she can control the battle by buffing your entire team, removing buffs from enemies. So she's really good at supporting and staying alive, and that is where she excels at really well. So that said, hope you guys enjoyed this. Hit that subscribe button and I'll see you guys next time.